Hi, I'm Jamie from SciFi Vision. Thanks for talking to me. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having
Um,
us, Jamie.
so to start off, why don't you talk about, I mean, how did the story come to be?
I was doing a Western at the time called The Warrant, Breaker's Law, and Reve and I were producing the film, but she was home back in LA with the kids at the time. When I'm away from Reve, as John will attest to it, I'm miserable. I'm not a guy that you really want to hang out with because I get surly or depressed or I'm just not myself.
And he won't leave his room.
And I won't leave my hotel room. Watch a lot of ESPN though, bull riding. Uh, And I pulled over to the side of the road one day because this thought just gut punched me. And I thought, what would ever happen to me if something ever happened to my wife, Reve? And then this other thought came into my head, which was divine intervention. Write a film about Rocky on a Bull, about a grandfather that has to go save his grandson because he's dying of the same brain tumor that took his wife. I don't know where it came from, but I know exactly actually where it came from. And then in 24 hours, I kind of had an outline. A week later, my writing partner and I, Derek Presley, wrote the first draft. The next week, Reve went out and found the financing, and we found Angel Studios who wanted to do it again with us for the third time. And then they said, "Who do you want to direct it?" I said, "Well, there's only one person I want to direct it. And I've worked with some of the greatest directors of all time, but there's only one person that's going to understand this because he understands me more than any other director I've ever worked with, and that's Jon Avnet." And we took that script, gave it to John, and said, "John, make this your baby. Do what you do so well, better than anybody else. Make it your own." And boy, did he.
I was going to ask you why you wanted to be a part of it, but clearly, obviously, he wanted you to do
Oh, he
it.
didn't
I'm
have a
sure.
choice. There was no choice
Yeah,
there. There was none. My wife, Reve, is very, very
very
stubborn.
convincing.
Don't say no to Reve.
No, don't do it.
Uh, well, first of all, obviously, I've worked with Neil many
Yeah.
times, and what he gave me and what he and Derek had written, I thought, this is good, and it may give me the opportunity to prove what I believe, which is that Neil is a leading man, a star in the old school of John Wayne, of Jimmy Stewart, Clint Eastwood, because he has this ability to say so much by saying nothing. He's just there. And that's in many ways where the opening image in the film, where you just see the cowboy hat, he tilts his head up and you see a close up on him and you go, whoa, and he's always there. So I felt like there was an opportunity for this material that he knew, that he owned, that he was so emotionally attached to maybe do something that was a breakthrough, a little bit of film magic, if you will. And he never disappointed me in the process. He was there for the film, for the other actors, for the crew. I mean, Neil and Michael T together, when we were shooting in Texas, they drove like 600 miles in one day, I think, when we were shooting some stuff. I mean, they're just such a great
Oh, so much fun.
partnership, to work with. And then to always be available and always trying to make it better and always be receptive if an idea comes up. So I think the relationship and the material gave us this opportunity, if you want, prove what I've always believed, which is Neil's a star.
So Neil, what was the prep like for this? I mean, I know you didn't really, I'm guessing bull ride, but what was the prep like for it?
Oh, Buddy Joe Hooker, the amazing stunt coordinator of some of the greatest films of all time. Uh, John hired him to make sure he was a stunt coordinator on this film. So for months beforehand, he had me riding horses all the time, working on bulls. There's a mechanical bull not far from our house that I trained on ad nauseum. I wanted to make sure that I looked authentic. And Kyle Sherwood, who was my stuntman in the film, designed exactly how I should sit in the saddle, where I should be, where on the bull, where my hand should be, how I'm pulling on the ropes, where everything should be so it looks authentic. And I worked really hard on making sure that I worked hard physically to make myself in the best shape that I could possibly be in.
He had to, because otherwise I would have beat him up.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Kept saying, your shirt's coming off. You doing your push-ups? You doing your sit-ups? What are you doing? So I made sure that I was in top-notch health and taking care of myself, but made sure that I was getting ample time on a mechanical bull and on horses daily to make sure that it looked right.
So that's you can see how he makes my job so easy. And Buddy Joe Hooker, I've worked with for 30 years, including on the first project I worked with Neil, which was Boomtown. So he is fantastic. And Brian Allison, our wrangler, and the bull riding stuff is all supervised by the PBR people, courtesy of Sean Gleason. So we really worked to make it authentic. But all that work that I did would have been nothing if what Neal just said, his preparation wasn't such that he was authentic and that he could be there and he was believable.
I was gonna say it's definitely believable and very, very intense too, I found. So John, what was you obviously you enjoyed doing this. What was the difficult part about directing this?
Well, there were a couple. One, it's very challenging to shoot bull riding. Again, we had the PBR, so we had the professionals set it up. But the bulls do what they do, and the riders try to keep up with them. So it's very, very demanding. And to get the rides to look the way I wanted them, to shoot them the way I wanted to, with very limited time, because we had a very small $8.5 million budget, was very challenging. And a lot of it was was Buddy Joe and the PBR writers, but it was also our editor, Tom Costantino, who happens to be my son-in-law. And I can never get him to work with me because he's always working with Seth MacFarlane.
He crushed it.
He's so good. And he's more than an editor, he's a filmmaker. And he did such a good job. So that back and forth, allowed us to realize something which we had hoped would be better than anything anybody ever had done. And because, Sean and the PBR were bagging us, it was a big deal to us. And Neal should tell you the story when we had the first screening at the USA Film Festival.
2 weeks ago, we're at the USA Film Festival, and Sean Gleason, the head of the PBR, sat right next to me. We actually, Reve and our kids, stayed at his house for 2 nights building up to this moment. And so, of course, I'm sweating thinking, what if Sean doesn't like this film? We don't get the stamp of approval. We don't get the push from PBR. This could be really ugly. We go to the film, and every once in a while, I'm looking down at Sean, and he's just like kind of batting his eyes a couple times, and he's laughing at all the jokes. I'm like, wait a minute, I think he might like this film. And after the film, he comes up to me with this like no expression on his face, grabs my shoulder and says, Neal, this is now my new favorite film of all time. I was like, oh my gosh, John did it. It's to create these bull riding sequences that John, like, I love the relationships of the film. And to me, that's the most important part of the film. It's just beautiful. But the bull riding sequences that John devised, how he filmed a certain way above the bull, no one's ever seen that before. It's like being in a video game. The shots in the chutes of the guys walking down the chutes, no one's ever done that before. Matching what it actually looks like to watch a PBR event on television at the same time was just awesome. And I think that if you love bull riding, you're going to lose your marbles when you see this film.
Well, what's also interesting is I've now seen it with a few different audiences, and a lot of people like my wife, who is not a PBR fan, sees the bull riding and really likes it. Then she sees the film and she loves it, says it's so tense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was. I don't know anything about bull riding, but I enjoyed it anyway. So
Yeah. Well, part of that was we figured out that the anticipation, the buildup to the ride is almost as important or more important in some ways for the ride itself. So that helped in terms of the filming and the storytelling to make them be as intense as they are.
And you worked with your wife a little bit in this. What was that like? I mean, that's got to be fun to be able to do that.
Well,
Maybe
Reve's never acted in a film before. This was our 8th production that we have done together in the last 5 years. So it's pretty awesome that the role that we're on. However, when I wrote the film, I said, honey, there's flashbacks to my wife who's passed away, and I have to kiss my wife in the film. I won't kiss any other woman on screen.
He didn't have to kiss her in the film. It was written to kiss her, so
I said, honey, you have to act because I don't act. He goes, well, you do now. You're going to act because I have to kiss the woman in the end, because if I'm going to be the hero, I have to kiss the woman in the end, and it has to be you. And she did it, and she was awesome. And I'm famous for one take, maybe two. That day I was milking it. Another take, John. One more take. I'm gonna enjoy this day, and boy, did I. Thank you, John.
you're welcome.
Okay, great. Well, we're out of time, but thank you so much. I appreciate it. I really did enjoy the movie. Very emotional too, I found.
Well, that's the father-daughter stuff was
Yeah.
part of what we really wanted to land.
You really wanted to
Well,
you built that.
Yeah, but you're the producer, the writer, the actor, So, and that was something we were very, very pleased with. Sarah Jones was fantastic, and we hoped caught the difficulty of those relationships. It's hard to be a great dad, no matter what you try, and his character had a rough ride. So that was very important. So we're very happy that you responded to that.
Yes, I very much enjoyed it. All right. Well, thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Jamie. See you next time. Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.